What's up, everybody? Welcome to Inside the Game, your one source for everything cool in video games. If you want to be a part of our show, then go to insidethegame.ca, and there you can submit your clip and end off our show. We have an awesome episode this week. We're going beyond a steel sky, the guys are getting super hot, and I'm going stealthy. And if you want to be a part of our community, you can follow us over on Twitch at twitch.tv/theofficialitg, sub over on YouTube at Inside the Game, and of course, join our Discord and so much more. Now let's get started with the Inside Scoop.
So I know there's a lot of Fortnite fans out there, and some people are definitely the fans that watch Twitch streamers and like to donate to those Twitch streamers, and that's totally fair. There's nothing wrong with that. It's always awesome to be able to support creators, especially if it's content that you enjoy. But some people might enjoy it a little too much. There's a teenager that's gone off and spent $20,000 in Twitch donations in just 17 days this past June. $20,000 of his parents' money without them knowing. Yeah, that's right. That's absolutely insane. So when all this came to fruition and the parents found out, it wasn't a good scene. They were devastated. They've been, saving up this money their entire life, and for it to be squandered in just 17 days was absolutely just heartbreaking for them. And unfortunately, things don't get better from there. Their bank basically said the only thing they could do is sue their son to try to get the money back, and there's no way they're gonna do that as the parents of a teenager. So they've asked the Twitch streamers, some of them being people like Tfue and Gorb, for possibly getting some of the money back, and they haven't heard back from many of them. And you know what? To be fair, the donations are there as just that. They're donations. So if they're given, they don't necessarily have to be given back. So unfortunately for these parents, they are kind of stuck with, footing this bill. And the mother did come out and say that she's hoping that maybe, with working with her son, that they can, make this the one giant mistake that he makes, because let me tell you, that's not a mistake you want to make more than once.
Not too long ago, Scott reviewed Star Wars Vader Immortal on the Oculus Rift, and I'm happy to announce we're getting another Star Wars VR game. ILM X Lab is partnered once again with Oculus Studios to bring us the next adventure in the world of Star Wars. Set between the events of Star Wars The Last Jedi and Star Wars Rise of the Skywalker on planet Batuu, Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge will take place on the outskirts of Black Spire Outpost. We're very happy to collaborate with ILM X Lab again on Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge, says Facebook VP of Content AR and VR, Mike Verdu. VR is an incredibly powerful storytelling medium. This experience will immerse fans into a deep and thrilling adventure within the Star Wars galaxy as they are transported to impossible places through the power of virtual reality. Well, very little is known about Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge, but to be excited again for another VR game and set in the world of Star Wars is always a thrilling adventure. Stay tuned, because you're right here in the right place at Inside the Game.
If you're interested in retro games and the Game Boy, or perhaps you just like the look of the original Game Boy, or maybe the Game Boy Color, well, there's a new device for you. This is called the Analog Pocket, and there's a lot more to this device than meets the eye. The Analog Pocket looks like somebody went back in time, looked at a Game Boy, and then brought it into 2020's technology. This thing is interesting, but it does pack quite a price. Set to pre-orders at $199 American, you're available to pre-order that starting August 3rd. They did go through some delays, but so did everything due to COVID. They're now back on track for that release, and they have a lot of features that you can get alongside just the kind of console. There's a screen protector, there's an HDMI kind of dock that allows you to plug a lot of USBs into it. There's different adapters for different retro games, including Game Gear. That's an interesting one there. And there's a screen protector, the like that you would normally expect, a case that's kind of hardened to put this device in. It's pretty expensive. And there's also rumors of GB Studios being permitted on this device, which is an emulation software known for Game Boy Advance emulating. So there's a lot of possibilities in this one. I'm intrigued. I want to check this out when it drops, and let us know what you think.
So finally, the day has come. We got to see Halo Infinite firsthand, got to see the campaign for about 10 minutes or so, got to see the graphics, got to see some of the storyline and how the Master Chief is where he is, just floating off in space. So wow, I'm absolutely excited to see more on Halo Infinite, but we actually got some pretty cool information, and that being 4-player online play and 2-player split screen co-op. This is huge news. I bought Halo 5, spent a few $100s on that Legendary Edition years ago, and went to play it day one with my friend, co-op split screen, and we were let down. 343, they got rid of it, but now they said it's back full swing, and we even got to see a little bit of it, and it looks great.
Obsidian has announced that Peril of Gorgon, the first of 2 narrative DLCs for the Outer Worlds, is going to be coming out on September 9th on PS4, Xbox One, and PC, and with the Switch port coming a little bit later. Revealed during the Xbox Game Showcase, the DLC will take place on a noir-tinged adventure to the Gorgon asteroid, investigating the origins of the Adrenatime. You'll have to reach the Monarch in the base game to access the DLC though. Alongside the new story content, the DLC will add new weapons, armor, perks, and flaws to the game. The DLC is not free, it's going to be coming in at a price of $14.99 right now, but if you do have Xbox Game Pass, you will receive a 10% discount. And to follow, the Outer Worlds will also be getting an expansion pass comprising Peril and Gorgon and the next DLC pack for $24.99. So there's a few options there.
Well, it's a new month, which means one thing. We get new games for PlayStation Plus. Here's your rundown. An all-new multiplayer party battler and a remastered blockbuster headline the PlayStation Plus for August. Hilarious multiplayer party title Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout makes its PS4 debut in August, giving PlayStation Plus members launch day access to its online competitive free-for-all and co-op challenges. Also this month, Infinity Ward's thrilling sequel to the critically acclaimed classic Modern Warfare 2 campaign remastered. There aren't much actually coming to the PlayStation Plus subscription service anymore, as we only get 2 titles on the PS4 now. Kinda curious to see what the PS5 is going to hold and if this model is going to change in the future.
Rogue Company is still in closed beta, but if you are a founder or if you feel like purchasing a founders pack, you can get in on the action, and this game is set to get bigger with their roadmap announcement. Phase 1 is going to hit you with a new map. This one is called Vices, and they're also adding a lot more player customization to it to make your account kind of feel more like your account, with custom banners and emotes and that sort of thing. And then lastly, they're going to have a penalty for quitters. If somebody quits out early on the team, that's going to cost them. But if you are quit out on, you now have the ability to surrender, which will keep you in that really stale game just a little less time. Phase 2 is going to kick off with a brand new Rogue. That's a brand new character to play, and also a tier of unlocks for characters that you enjoy playing. This is the Rogue Mastery system, where the more you play that character, the more unlocks and maybe cosmetic items that you'll get for them. In addition to this, they're also bringing out ranked and custom servers, so you'll be able to tweak the settings or line up for a more competitive game. Phase 3 is going to largely consist of bug fixes, but they're also going to add in equipment mastery, so the more you use that certain weapon, maybe you'll get some kind of cosmetic unlocks for it further down the road. They're also going to be introducing a battle pass and a lot more unlockables through that, and we'll see how that works as time goes on. If you're curious about Rogue Company and you want to check it out, maybe see how it plays, check out our Let's Play. We did one for last week's episode, and the guys and I had a pretty good time.
So the August games with gold are finally here, and they're looking pretty good this time around. And we're going to start off with the Xbox One games, and that's Portal Knights. The world of Elysia needs you. Join this cooperative 3D sandbox action RPG to level up your character, craft epic weapons, conquer enemies in real time, and build almost anything. Craft your adventure, forge your hero, become the ultimate Portal Knight. Secondly, we have Override, Mech City Brawl. No gears, no glory, control gigantic robots and duke it out in this 3D mech brawler. Epic battles await in local and online versus mode, 4-player co-op where each player controls one part of a mech, and a single-player game mode. Each mech has its own gameplay style, special moves, and finishers. And now we're going way back to the Xbox original, starting with MX Unleashed. Rainbow Studios returns to its heritage to bring the definitive next-generation off-road game to life, featuring enormous free-world environments and an extensive racing career mode. MX Unleashed is one big off-road playground. If you want more intense action, battle it out with a monster truck, helicopter, or biplane. The fourth and final game is another all-time classic, one of my favorites, Red Faction 2. This dates way back to the Xbox original, so seeing it now, being able to be played, and not to mention prettier, wow, this is great. This game was one of the first few games that you could actually destroy your environment, be it walls or the floor or whatever it was. This had an awesome storyline and a wicked multiplayer. I suggest you check this one out too.
It's summertime and it's hot. Some would say super hot. Scott, we got a pretty awesome opportunity here. We got to check out the, I don't know if we want to call it a DLC because it's not really a DLC. Mind Controlled Delete, the next kind of rendition of the Super Hot series. What did you think jumping into this one?
Yeah, this one's really cool. They started off developing this as kind of a free DLC expansion, but it ended up being so big that it warranted its own release. But it is also free if you own Super Hot. You get the access to this game as well, so that's really cool. Good on them for that. But getting into the gameplay of this one, it's more of the same. It's Super Hot all over again with a little couple tweaks here and there to freshen it up a little bit, but basically that same tried and true combat. What did you think of this one?
Well, let's just say Super Hot sticks to exactly what they did in the first game, because I'm confused as all hell playing this. I don't know what the overarching story is here. You know, there's computer hacking stuff going on. You know, it's a confusing game to follow, but it's not necessarily meant to be followed in that sense, right? It doesn't follow this same, linear storyline that we see in a lot of games that we play. This is like, you want to be the biggest superhero, action superstar John Wick style guy that you can be in this game. And, the more brutal it is, the more fun it is. And that's the way this game plays out. And it's no different in the first one as it is in this one. And like you said, we get a few new tweaks here. And let me tell you, I think it really, really expanded the way this game plays. We're getting these new style hacks. And kind of as we play through these successive levels in this game, we get to unlock the abilities of these hacks. And these hacks allow us to, use certain things, like, for example, anything we throw is now a grenade, so when it hits the ground, it automatically explodes, which you have to watch out for because you can cause damage to yourself. But again, that's not something we had in the first game, so it's awesome to see this now where we can get some of these different things to kind of mix it up, because this game is very repetitive in the sense that, you know, if you're having a tough time with it, you're going to be replaying levels, but this particular one, you do end up replaying some levels anyways, kind of over and over again, but, you know, with randomly generated enemies, it always kind of feels a little bit different. But again, for a game that is so repetitive, they've managed to find a way to keep it fresh no matter what. Like, I just want to keep playing no matter if I die or I move on to the next level.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different ways they've posed this to make it make more sense kind of in a video game setting. You touched on that this game is very abstract when it comes to a storyline. It is not really something that's meant to be taken entirely seriously, and a lot of it hints towards the fact that this is just a video game that you're playing. It's self-aware almost. There's some interesting things in the storyline, but the way they present the levels to you in this one is kind of more in a challenge mode than the first game was. The first game would run through, I believe, 24 levels just kind of in a row, and then there is maybe different challenges you could impose on yourself, like katana only, and complete it that way. In this, they've kind of just shooken the whole bag up. That way you jump into a challenge room, so to speak, a node, and this is kind of comprised of a bunch of different rooms. So that node and those rooms could kind of pop up in a similar way further on down the road, but with different enemies, and now you have different hacks potentially, and a different core as well, which is another kind of system that's at play here. So when you begin a game, you get to choose a core, and that kind of dictates how that character is going to play out. This is something that was not in the first game. And
no, this was a cool aspect.
It really is, because it gives you a little bit more kind of agency at how you want to play. You can get these kind of one that allows you to hot swap, just like in the first game. And then there's other ones that kind of tweak that, so you can throw a katana and recall it to your hand, or you can rush into an enemy with a loaded punch already there. There's a couple different things that kind of give you a power, an edge over other things. And this combat really works out well, because there's a lot of these different nodes, and you're really tried and tested as you have to get through maybe 8 of them without taking 2 damage. So it's quite a challenge, and it's unlike the first game in the way that the challenge is the game in this time around.
It is basically challenge room after challenge room, and it's just how quickly can you get through with, you know, style points, picking this up, you know, whipping the katana this way, like you said, catching it, throwing a shuriken. Like, I mean, there's so many different, you know, options at play here, and it's just, this is what I love this game, because, like I said, it feels repetitive in a sense, because you're seeing, you know, the same red block characters in the same white world all the time, but every level, no matter if it looks the same or not, is different. It always plays out different. So that's the challenge I love, and that's really where I get addicted to this game, and what really brings me back to it every single time, no matter if it was the first one or this brand new kind of standalone DLC, free LC, whatever we want to call it. I guess we just call it the sequel at this point, because I honestly think this game is bigger than the first one now. Like you said, they made it so big it had to become its own entity, opposed to being just a DLC package.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. This game is so big, it definitely stands alone on its own merit. And I love how they've recycled all these different things. It really is a true work of art out of recycled entities. Like, if you think about it, every weapon is very limited. All the characters are almost the same. This one gives you a little bit of tweaks later on. There's a kind of demon thing that pops in. There's other kind of red guys that are able to use your powers. There's things that kind of surprise you along the way, but for the most part, this game is just reusing all the things from the first one and adding just like a little bit more. And the way it looks in these levels kind of changes a little bit. The art style of this game is really kind of super modern and super sleek and very digital. And they use that to kind of tweak with the levels, you know, further on in the 8th floor nodes. And when you get up into the higher levels, like, the maps and the things and everything kind of looks a little shaky. They do these things to kind of ruin the perspective from you, and it also changes like it's a meta thing. They know that you're looking at this game, so they're going to impose difficulty that's not just more enemies, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's a sneaky way of making the game harder as you go along, because in the grand scheme of things, you may not feel like, you know, some of these changes necessarily affect you greatly, but as you start progressing through some of these levels, you realize that, okay, this has changed up. Something's different here. Now you have to adjust the way you're doing it. It's not just, you know, trying to find every enemy in the room now. It's you know, what item am I going to pick up first? Who am I going to look at first? You know, you really start to plan out your attack before it really gets through, because when you start working your way through these nodes, you don't want to be on the 4th or 5th floor of the node and then die because this permadeath kicks in and then you have to restart the whole node over again. And I mean, hey, I love playing this game, but I certainly like getting through the levels too. So it is a little disheartening when you know you're all the way down there and you get kicked back to the beginning of the node again. I could probably play this game nonstop always till I kept saying super hot, super hot, super hot. But I think we're gonna have to score this one, Scott. If you're gonna give it a score, what are you gonna give it?
Yeah, I'm absolutely in love with this game. This version of Super Hot is the best package I've seen. They took the first game and gave you challenge after challenge after challenge and really raised the level on the play. I'm there with a 9.5. I really have nothing to add to this.
You know what? I was thinking about this too. I'm like, you know what? I don't have anything to complain about this game. I've had a great time. If you're a fan of the first game, you're going to love this one. If you haven't played a super hot game, you got to jump into this one. I'm giving it a 9.5 as well.
A near perfect follow-up to the original. Awesome gameplay refreshed for a bigger and better challenge.
All right, Corey, let's go beyond the gap. Corey, you and I jumped into a beloved game that I think is going to take off and go pretty far, because I love the studio that's developing this one. Revolution Software is back, and if you're a fan of the Broken Sword series like I am, this is the next step moving forward. We're talking about Beyond a Steel Sky. This is another take on a classic point-and-click adventure game, but with a different bit of a twist this time around. Not our usual side-scroller, but more of a 3D environment. Corey, what do you think of this one?
Well, I don't have the history with these guys that you may, so this is kind of a new one for me. I played a couple games in this genre, but by no means am I an expert, so I'm definitely pretty new when it comes to figuring out some of the mechanics with these games. But overall, I really like the way this game looked. I kind of think that the cel-shaded kind of designed layout, the comic book kind of cutscenes we get at the beginning and throughout, I thought were done really, really well. And it was all kind of like this welcoming thing, because when you get into these point-and-click adventures, there tends to be a lot of dialogue, a lot of talking. The pace can be slow, so anything to spice it up definitely helps. So my early impressions were definitely good. As I started to play the game, I did kind of get into some issues a little bit more just on the movement side of things. Maybe because I'm a gamer that tends to play games where I'm playing a little more of a fast pace. This is really slowing me down. So it took a little getting used to. But overall, I think when you first get into this game, they do a good job kind of easing you into how it all works, right? We know we're going to talk to a few different characters. We need to kind of exhaust through all the conversation options to kind of learn, you know, what's coming up, what's the next step, where are you going next? But like overall, they do a great job at it. So I can't really fault it for that. It's more just my, you know, me not being so familiar with these types of games. So, I mean, overall, maybe as an expert, you have a better eye for it, but I think I did have a good time, you know, when I first jumped into this one.
No, it's definitely got that point and click pacing to the game, right? when you're typically into one of these games, especially coming from the Broken Sword series, like I've done from the very first one all the way up to the latest Broken Sword 5, it's always got its own unique style, and you're looking to often gather material, gather in sources or resources, but it's the materials you gather and that you combine that help you overcome the puzzle, and you get some of that here at the same time. But if you're not used to that point and click adventure, I didn't find it was overbearing to kind of get into. I thought it was relatively easy to get into the game, kind of get you progressing through the story, and the story is definitely one of the highlights of what's going on. And it's cool to see this overpowering kind of sensation going on in Union City, and you're trying to get to the bottom of what's going on. You left an old friend in charge, and it's kind of gone south. And when you kind of gain a companion, things really start to change and open up, and it's just about moving forward and solving the puzzles. But sometimes I even got stuck on the puzzles myself a little bit, and then it took you a little bit for, or at least for me, to kind of figure out. But they gathered this new intel, this way you get your information, and it's this little scanner, this little hacking gadget that allows you to pull up other windows and maneuver different things. And it's a new element to the, I think, to the developers, honestly, that introduces a new form of a puzzle. Typically, when you're doing these puzzles, you have to gather a piece of string, or you gather a paper clip, and then you combine the two, and then you can that'll help unlock like a lock of some sort and get you into the next room, right? Or this time you're actually hacking all this futuristic stuff. And I think that was, Union City is a cool city to be a part of and be in this world and see this big giant skyscrapers, kind of this futuristic look. And to get into this and then hack these things, this puzzle mechanic for me was a little bit unique, and I'm like, I didn't quite understand how it worked right away. And then when it clicked, I'm like, oh, you're just moving these little boxes, which then will help trigger other events in the puzzle, and that's how you kind of progress through some of this. And then, like you said, getting into the dialogue tree. I would like to get into dialogue trees and not have to go through every single piece of dialogue, and sometimes you're able to bypass that, and sometimes you're not, until you actually check off every single checkbox in the dialogue tree. It doesn't really let you progress forward, and that sometimes can slow down the pacing of the game. And I think that's where I think you fell into the little trap, Corey, of, man, it's another piece of dialogue, right? Where for me, I was kind of like, oh cool, more dialogue.
Straight to cargo. Gotta get these babies
Quarantined?
distributed.
Thanks for the ride, Wendell. Maybe see you again.
Typically in the Broken Sword series, I'm going to be comparing this back and forth because that's where I came from. And that's where, honestly, Revolution Software has started, and where I was kind of found into this thing. But it's always been this, like, they tried the 3D thing with Broken Sword at that point within that era, right, when 3D started kind of becoming a thing. But then they went back to the roots and went to this side scroller, point and click, and you move your mouse and you click over here, and then Stobert would move over, and then you find the piece of information you're looking for, or whatever it is. Where here we actually use the WASD keys or the arrow keys to move through the environment, and that's something that's new for this kind of take. But it's still got that sense of that point and click kind of aesthetic that we're all used to. And then when you touch on Union City itself, I thought it's a unique look and style to the game. This whole cell shaded kind of aspect is really, man, it really kind of gravitates and pulls me into the game. And then the dialogue, so many options, so many people to talk to. But I did have a few issues, Corey. I was talking to Lady Songbird, and she's actually standing on top of the desk. And then when I pulled out and was able to talk to her some more, she was then in the desk. Like, I had a couple little hiccups here or there, some bugs on PC. It also came to Apple Arcade, so it was there for free or with the subscription service. So if you're able to check it out there, that could be one way to jump into this adventure. But for us, we're over on Steam, and I found there were just a couple little hiccups. Like, I walked away from the dialogue, I played out this whole complete scenario, and it was over with. And then when I went back, the option to start the dialogue was still there, but the characters were not. So then I actually clicked it and replayed the entire scenario again.
With
all
nobody
the dialogue
there.
was there, like everything was there. I'm like, man. So to see that, I was just like, it kind of took me out of the experience a little bit, because I've never had to experience any issues like that before in the past with the Broken Sword series. So to kind of get into this, man, my expectations were really set high. I had a high bar. I still do, but I think some of the hurdles that they encountered this time weren't really what they were used to or expected for Revolution Software.
Well, That's very strange.
All right, Corey, this is a different spin for Revolution Software with a point and click 3D-like adventure. What do you score in this one?
Well, because I'm not, I'm not huge into these games, I definitely wanted to give it a fair shot here. It's not the pacing I was hoping for, but the story is great, and that's what's going to definitely keep people coming back into this one. And because, like you said, there's a few different kind of game elements that maybe weren't in games like this before that we're getting in this that I think are really cool, I got to give this one a solid 7.5. Nice.
I'm a little bit higher than you. When you get this companion further on in the game and you get this banter back and forth, you're like, it really starts to kind of make it feel like home. And I thought this game moving forward for Revolution was a great step forward. I thought it was awesome to experience something like this. The art style obviously always gravitates to me in this kind of genre, so to get back for Revolution Software, not be a Broken Sword series and yet be something different, I really did have a great time. And that story, it was absolutely awesome. I'm there with an 8.5.
Nice.
Gotta go. Now that I dealt with my U-chip problem, I needed to find out more about my new identity.
A great story supported by a well-done voiceover by all characters really allows you to immerse yourself in this one. But graphical issues at times and some control frustrations are what's going to probably hold you back.
I was enjoying my time in the piazza, but I doubted I'd learn much about Graham here.
Alright, so I'm back with your Game Day 5 Rainbow Six Pro League Canadian Division coverage, and this is it. This is the final game for Stage 1 this year, and it was a really good set of 2 maps. It unfortunately didn't go to 3. It was really looking like it was going to. Altiora versus Nordic Esports, dueling it out, both playing extremely well. So one thing to take note, Altiora actually had a substitute playing, so maybe if they had their full starting roster playing, they might have actually won, but who knows. Their sub did really well, and the rest of the team did extremely well. And the first map was Coastline, so moving into that, it was a 7-5 victory for Nordic Esports. They did so well. You can really see how these teams are molding into who they are and starting to learn some attacking strategies. The second map was Villa, and it was also a 7-5 victory. It was neck and neck, 5-5 at one point. Altiora was looking really good, but then Nordic Esports, they just kind of came back and in full swing, won 7-5 like I said earlier. So that being said, first place goes to, of course, Mirage. Second place, Nordic Esports. Third place, Altiora. Fourth place, Livid. So all that great stuff being said, I'm looking forward to next week giving you the North American coverage as Mirage takes on Dark Zero Esports in their first game.
grabbing my Oculus to go solo and stealthy. This week I had the pleasure of grabbing my Oculus and jumping into Phantom Covert Ops. This is a stealth game that is set in a kayak. It was one of the actually most unique experiences I've had in VR, and the fact that I had to sit down when I was playing. Normally I would play a lot of games standing up in the world of VR, but because you're in a kayak the entire game, you sit in a chair in front of your VR setup, and that's how you kind of get this sensation of, I actually felt grounded in VR being in a kayak. It was so cool to look down and go, there's the whole kayak. Everything there is at your weapon disposal, everything from your paddle to your sniper rifle, and as well as other guns clipped to you, ammo, and other accessories you gain as you progress through the story. It's definitely one of the coolest experiences I've had. Now the whole premise is based on the fact that the Titan is an actual virus that someone as a doctor is developing, and you are set to go and find out what's going on. It's been one of your past handlers has gone and bombed this area and the inventor behind this, and it's now turned out that maybe he's not so gone after all, and then now you're set out to quest to go and find out where this is being held, where it's being created, and that's how your story progresses. The overall campaign isn't exactly all that long, so it's one of those experiences that are going to get you in but also get you out. Now I'm gonna do a little bit of a call in, as we'll see we got some backup here and what Scott has to say, because sometimes motion sickness is a factor.
Moving to position 2, over.
Hey, yeah, so I'm glad you asked, because most of the time we have a different kind of feeling when it comes to VR games, and you're usually the one who's a little more sensitive to these things than I am, and in this case I actually had the opposite effect. I was actually pretty hit with some motion sickness, but I think I've started to figure out why that is exactly. I think it has something related to do with the kayak and the fact that I'm on a still plane. The water kind of ripples, but I'm always super still, and the way you sit on the chair the whole game, although it's pretty comfortable and I'm not really a stranger to it, it just kind of gave me, I guess, that weird disconnect. But I still wanted to enjoy this game, and what I can say from my time in it is that having all those different goggles, different items to bring to any combat situation you bring up, and the whole wanting to keep it stealthy aspect was something that really appealed to me. So this game had a lot of potential for me, but unfortunately I had to bow out.
Yeah, and that's where I took over. For once, motion sickness didn't really hit me. I was able to play for a good hour before I started to kind of get the cold sweats scenario and that motion sickness setting in. And the biggest shine of the game is the fact that it is stealthy. Basically one of mine as well as Scott's favorite genres. So the opportunity to jump in the world of VR and have a stealth is very unique as you sit in a kayak, and I wasn't quite sure how they're going to handle this, but with so many avenues to traverse and kind of paddle your way through, and as well as tall weeds, is like hiding in the shadows, I guess you could say. However, I did find that some of the AI weren't as bright as you kind of would hope, because if you were able to paddle up to them, they still wouldn't see you anyway. So whether I was in the weeds or not, I was only picked off by the shine of their flashlight or the boats going out with their flashlights. So the stealth aspect didn't really hit too hard when you're paddling underneath the guy and looking up to see him look right back at you and not get caught.
They haven't seen me. Hold fire. Let them pass.
Overall, my time with Phantom Covert Ops has been a stealthy one. I had a great time going in there, hacking certain things, and being as stealthy as possible, and as well as having a highlight of shooting weapons, getting into some challenges, and picking off people with a sniper rifle. Sniper rifle is always a good time in VR. Looking down the sights and all stuff is a great time, but hiding in the shadows sometimes doesn't really benefit the game, as the AI just isn't smart enough once in a while. So I want to see where they're going to take this moving forward. Hopefully we got a Phantom Covert Ops 2, but overall my time with the game is there with a 9.
Unique VR action that won't disappoint. Kayak gameplay with a compelling story to keep you going.
The electrics around here.
Hold your fire. They haven't seen you.
Corey, let's go racing. Tiny style. Corey, you and I grabbed our Switch and jumped into Tiny Racers. This brings me back to the days of Micro Machines as we grab our little race car and these little miniature tracks and kind of venture out from there. What did you think of Tiny Racers?
Well, jumping into this, I got a very like Hot Wheels, like you said, Micro Machines vibe. We get 8 different kind of tiny cars to choose from. I mean, they're full size to us because in this game we're actually playing, the tracks are gigantic spaces. We're basically Honey, I Shrunk the Cars, right? I think that's a tagline they even use on their website for this. So it's, again, it's just one of those things that kind of puts you in the, you know, you're in this huge gigantic world, but you may just be in a bedroom or, you know, in a kitchen or just outside in the garden. But again, it's just kind of the way they implement the tracks into this game is what makes it unique. But there's some rocky areas in this game, and I don't mean just on some of the tracks. I had a tough time with some of the controls, Drew. I found the steering in this game to be like ultra sensitive. I don't know about you.
Well, so I had a good time. The minute I jumped into the game, I was like, the art style, I was like, dang, this is cool, right?
Yeah.
It was really gravitated towards our art style together, Corey. Like you and I both like this kind of style.
Oh yeah, for sure. It definitely was.
So it started off really strong for me, but then the more I progressed through the game, is like you said, it's kind of when I kind of hit some hiccups or thump or whoomp or because as you constantly go through, the car will pop up in this comic book art style like wording with whoomp, thump, thump, and you're like, but I'm just driving around. Why is it doing this? Because every time your car or bus or whatever you're driving just hits something a little rigid, it makes this little thing. Okay, that's fine. But the problem that I had is that when you're trying to traverse around this track, some of the transitions from like it would be something simple from like a skateboard to the ground, or from as you go up, you go on from one ledge to the bridge. But when the bridge is off kilter like a little bit, when your car hits that, it then sends it into any other section of the track besides forward. So it's not smooth, right? I don't mind hitting a bump and then continue on, but when it hits the track and then turns you sideways and then you get nailed from another car behind, you're suddenly going from third or first all the way to the end. And it's just, to me, that's where I really got irritated, Corey, is the fact that the track, I couldn't consistently gauge where I was going to be on the track at all times.
Yeah, it was tough. Like you said, it's kind of like the controls are a little sensitive, yes, but that's kind of the style of this game, kind of this rickety racing style, you know, almost like a kart style racing, but we're using these mini cars. And so it's, you know, you're expected to, you know, it be rough in the corners and when you're transitioning from place to place. But the thing is like you said, when you hit, you know, a surface that's maybe not, you know, in line with the one you just came off of, your vehicle's going to go in a direction and you can't save yourself from going in that direction. You can't correct it if you want. So the only thing you're left with doing is I found myself pressing right trigger so many times just to reset my car and get back on the track, just so I didn't have to go through whatever animation was coming if I went off the track or was turned around backwards and couldn't get around. It was just easier to reset and poof, I'm a little bit back on the track, but I'm, you know, headed in the right direction at least. And I don't know, it was difficult in that sense because when you fall behind, it was so hard to catch back up.
Man.
Like even in the easy mode, it wasn't easy to necessarily catch back up unless the cars in front of you were crashing. And I found as I went through the difficulty progression in this game, is the harder it got, it wasn't necessarily that the other cars were faster, they just weren't crashing as much, and I was crashing more. So it was, you know, it's not a good mixture. And so I just ended up finding myself like kind of hitting a wall, basically, you know, no pun intended, just not being able to get past certain tracks because even if I was getting clean runs, I was having a tough time passing other cars.
Yeah, absolutely. I felt the same way. When I'm trying to progress through the campaign, I just got stuck on these transition pieces, or even I got stuck on the guardrail itself. You would grind up beside a car, the car could push you right into that guardrail, and then I felt like it was like glue or a piece of gum was stuck to the guardrail and my car, and I couldn't get off the thing, even when nobody was beside me. I still couldn't pull myself. Exactly. So I'm stuck on this thing, and the more I played, honestly, just the more I became frustrated, because I wasn't able to enjoy my time just playing the track. I felt like I was either fighting the racers or fighting parts of the track. Complicated track is one thing, but when it's not laid out properly, that just ruins it completely. And that's kind of where I felt the further I got on, because when I first started up, man, everything felt so cool. I thought it looked great and run super well on the Switch. Playing that in handheld mode, I thought it was a perfect fit, and I absolutely loved it. But then the more, like I said, the more I played, the more it just got complicated in just certain ways that it shouldn't have been. If it would have stayed with the same formula and how smooth the first couple tracks were, then they wouldn't have a problem. But moving on, there's one hiccup after another, man. I just got frustrated to the point where I had to put it down, and I didn't want to put it down. That's really what frustrated me the most.
Yeah, you know what? It was kind of like the hits just kept on coming with this one. Like I wanted to continue to like it. I like racing games. This is definitely just kind of a simple, easy one to jump into. It seemed like it was just going to be, you know, a ton of fun you could jump in and out of, because it has multiplayer and a couple different game modes. Like we're playing a tournament style game mode where you get, you know, an easy circuit, medium, hard, and we go up a few other levels. There's an arcade where you can just jump into any track you've unlocked with any vehicle if you want, which is really nice. And then there's multiplayer. You can play local multiplayer, which is great. But the problem is you can only play 2 players. Like, come on. Like, there's 8 different cars. Like, why can't I have at least 4 players split screen? Especially in a game like this that's so simple. Like, there's no power-ups. There's nothing. It's just the cars and the track. So
I was so excited for when I saw that multiplayer. I'm like, multiplayer? Oh, man. Absolutely. This could be a game on segment. And then I jump into it, and there's just player 1 and player 2, and I was like, oh man, if they just would have added 2 more players, I think that would have helped, you know, create the longevity of this game for you wanting to go and play some more, because it is so simple to get in and get out. So it's just, man, it just didn't pan out the way I wanted to, and unfortunately it just led from one hiccup into the next, and unfortunately a disappointment with only a 2-player multiplayer just wasn't cutting it. When everything nowadays, when you step forward into a kart racing game, you're almost guaranteed that 4-player, you know, split screen scenario, and here it's just, it wasn't there.
No.
Well, Corey, our time in Tiny Racers, I think, was short-lived just due to hiccups and such. What do you score in this one?
Well, like you said, there was definitely some hiccups in this. I wanted to like this game when I first got in. The graphics, the art style is right up my alley, and I like the Micro Machines style, you know, the mini cars in the big world. It's a great idea. It just didn't work. It wasn't planned out, and for that, it's a $12 game. I got to give it that, but I got to give it a 4.5.
Ooh, man, you are definitely a little bit lower than I am. I see where you're coming from. It was just one transition hiccup into the next, stuck on guardrails. The fact that I couldn't even customize my car was a little bit of a disappointment. And then on top of that, multiplayer, just needed 2 more players, man. That could have just increased the value of this game. I know it is only at around $12, so I think you got a good, solid start here, but it's just not crossing the finish line for me. I'm there with the 5.
Tiny Racer had a great look and a fun concept with the mini cars in a big world, but there's just too many issues with the cars sticking to the track and the guardrails, and the CPUs being way too aggressive.
Nate, we're back with round 2 of Rainbow Six Siege Battle Pass.
Let them come.
Nate, we're back again as Ubisoft attempts once more with the Battle Pass for Rainbow Six Siege. This time they've increased the levels from 35 to 45. Honestly, that's probably the biggest highlight of this battle pass for me, because I do not like it. Once again, we have to pay for the battle pass if you haven't earned. Well, you know what? Even if you do earn everything from the battle pass, it's still not enough to buy the next one. And you know what? I'm just gonna do it. Ubisoft, step it up. I don't agree with this. I think it is cheap. I think it is a cheap way to make everybody else pay money. 9 times out of 10, if you do a full season battle pass, a lot of people probably aren't going to finish the battle pass anyways. However, give them the opportunity to at least earn the money back to buy the next season. I think this is one of the worst way to pay forward for gamers. Just saying. This is my opinion right now. I'm calling it out. I don't like it. I do not agree with it. And it completely turns me off of the battle pass for Rainbow Six.
Yeah, man, I can't agree with you more because, I mean, we're a little indifferent. I actually like the content of the battle pass aside from the return, you know, that you get back in silver. But
sure,
you basically get what, 600 silver back, and it costs at least 860, so basically like $9. So
Yep.
then basically they make you spend about $3 if you fully complete it, which I know doesn't sound like that much, but that's only if you own the season pass. You're looking at about 1,300 points, which is $13 if you don't own the season pass, which the season pass is another like $50. So it's
exactly,
I don't know. That's why it is kind of scheming, man. You look at Call of Duty, look at Fortnite. You get
PUBG,
1,000
Apex.
points back in the paid one, and then if in the the free edition of it, which is all within the same package, you get an extra 300. So they really they're like, here, like they're kind of just shoving it down your throat. We're here. They're really trying to, like in Rainbow Six, they're really just trying to not. Which again, like you said, it's not really for the fans, I feel like. But
not at all.
You know, and they only gave you a month, so 28 days to complete 45 levels. And the way it actually works out too, so you can actually do some math here if you want, but you get 120 points for completing a match, and then each round you win. So if you win the match, you get up to 120 times 3, so an extra 360 points. So you're barely at half a battle pass level, barely, if you win one match of casual. And man, like that's few and far between, man. You usually end up winning 1 round, 2 rounds on your losses, or sometimes, especially if you're playing solo, you get put in matches that are partway through. So then it's like, okay, I just kind of wasted 1 or 2 attempts if you just get thrown on a losing team. Man, it's kind of bogus.
No, it's definitely bogus. I don't agree with that. I did not pick up the battle pass this time around at all. I took one look through it. I wanted to see if they were going to step it up this time. Sure, they extended it to 45 tiers. Man, why not even 50? Why not just go for the full 50? Why not go for a full battle pass season? Is that what they're waiting for? So we're going to do it the next time around with season 3? They're going to give us the finally to reach that 100 like every other. And I guess you don't really need to be like every other battle pass, but to the same extent, at least allow us to earn enough silver that we're able to purchase the next battle pass,
or make it cost less. You're charging without a season pass owner the same price as a battle pass, or if not more. Then you know,
it's honestly disappointed. And to top it off, you like the content that's in this season. I did not like the content that's in the battle pass. Twitch has this ugly green outfit of hers and the headgear, and then there's Buck that's got this headgear that looks like he's got a duck bill on his head, man. Like then to end it off on tier 45 is a weapon skin and a charm. It's a rooster charm. Come on, man. Not cool. It was not cool at all for me. I didn't do it. I didn't like it. I got nothing to do with this game anymore.
I'm getting the battle pass. I haven't quite picked it up yet, but I still have a couple weeks till it ends. Yeah. So that all to say, I don't know, man. The weird thing that I found is that they gave you at the end of the last battle pass a really cool buck skin, and now in this one they're gonna give you another buck skin. Like, there are almost 60 operators, and you're telling me that you had to pick the same character. Is it because they're kind of following this lore or storyline, whatever they're doing? I don't really get it. I think it's kind of lame. Like, I do like enough of the character skins and weapon skins within the battle pass to purchase it, but all in all, I still think there's a few weak links.
Absolutely. There's so many operators to choose from. Yeah, they could be going with that story that you're talking about, Nate, and I understand that to some extent, but when we've got Buck skin from last time, do I really want another Buck skin moving forward? Probably not, because I'm probably excited from the last Buck skin. If it was good,
and I'm not going
right?
to change mine, dude. I love my last Buck skin. I think it was really cool. But now it's like this new one, well, whatever. There's two tiers of my battle pass gone to waste, basically.
Absolutely. And then them back with challenges. They don't give us weekly challenges, daily challenges, they give us event challenges. And to me, that's just a sad way to go. Here's your challenges. You guys are done until the season's over, and that's all you get to work with. And, you know, to me, that's just cheap and just boring.
Yeah.
Really just boring.
To sum it up, it's 4 personal challenges. It's get a certain amount of damage, which you get fairly easily. Then it's get 5 kills through breakable surfaces, 50 secondary weapon kills, so that's grindy. And then I think it's 70 or 75 silencer kills.
Man.
So it's really like, that's it though. So they're worth 850 points, so not even a full tier. Okay, and you get 4 of these throughout the whole month. And then they actually do give you one weekly one as an entire Rainbow Six family to achieve. So I mean, that pretty much happens no matter what. They did have 1 week, I think we didn't actually make it because it was kind of a hard one, but I mean, it's weak. It's a weak system, and there's way better challenge systems out there that other games have done.
Absolutely. They had lost the pull from. Overall though, Nate, in your opinion, you seem a little bit on the fence, I'm gonna be honest. Even though you're gonna get the battle pass, will you recommend it or not recommend the battle pass?
I'm honestly just to say, take a hard look at the content, see if the skins are what you want, man. Because that's just it. I mean, that's what you do in most cases, I guess, obviously. But I don't know. I'm gonna get it because I like them enough. So
I am not going to recommend it, and I'm gonna give it 2 thumbs down.
I'm gonna give it one of these. All right.
Nate's got the mixed. I got 2 thumbs down. Do not recommend this battle pass, unfortunately. And I'm a huge Rainbow fan, so this one was just a little disappointing. Well, that is it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for watching this week. Now, each and every week, you guys hit us up at insidethegame.ca, where there you can submit your clip and end off our show. However, we're sneaking in the man behind the scenes, our very own Team Radley, saving his team and throwing some punches. Check this out in Rogue Company, and next week, we'll see you inside the game.
Need a light?
No.
Running low. Nearly there. You started a fight you can't win. We have control of